All right, it's still TVC break.
Petition of the people, and so he called for the Senate to be scrapped. Nigeria's bicameral legislature, modeled after the Federal Congress of the United States, has 109 senators and 360 members of the House of Representatives, drawn from the 36 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT.
Restructuring Nigeria's National Assembly and the practice of a unicameral legislature was one of the recommendations of the 2014 confab. They were also of the opinion that the membership of the legislature should be 50% based on equity of states and 50% based on population.
Okay, now the annual budget of the National Assembly, placed on the first line charge, had reached the peak of 150 billion naira. Take that again, 150 billion naira yearly under the Jonathan-led administration, but was slashed to 115 billion naira in the 2016 budget. Now, according to financial analysts, it generally costs 24 million naira to maintain a senator in Nigeria for just 1 month, which makes them the highest paid government officials in the world.
That is quite warping. In West Africa, only Nigeria, Liberia, and Cameroon practice bicameral legislature. But while Nigeria has a total of 469 legislators, Cameroon has only 180, while Liberia has just 103 lawmakers.
Senegal, Niger Republic, Benin Republic, Republic of Togo, Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Mali and Sierra Leone all practice a unicameral legislature.
Senegal operated bicameral legislature until September 2012, when President Macky Sall pushed for the constitutional amendment that scrapped the country's Senate to save money for development.
In Niger Republic, for example, the parliament called Assemblée Nationale has 113 members. Benin Republic's parliament has 83 members, while Togo Republic has 91 members. Republic of Mali's unicameral legislature has 160 members, while the Sierra Leonean parliament has 124 lawmakers.
Though all the countries mentioned above are far behind Nigeria in terms of population and resources, many believe that it will be a wise decision to trim the size of the National Assembly in order to save money. The key point
the point is, should that really be the only factor? Just save money. Money to do what? That is the question. Well, we're now joined by a lawyer, Wale Ekunusi, and also joining us from Abuja is other guests who will be hooking up with very, very shortly. He's the chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Honorable Emmanuel Okejev. Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to have you on TVC Breakfast this morning. Okay, so the argument, the discussion, it's getting louder and louder and louder. Unicameral legislature may just be the way to go for Nigeria. Beyond the issue of saving us money because of the recession, if we were to really look at it based on the population of Nigeria compared with other countries, the West African countries that actually practice unicameral, is it really justified? Would it make sense for us to run a unicameral legislature?
If you look at the nations of the world that practice unicameral legislation, we see the population of Nigeria is not a factor.
India is one.
Of all about 192 sovereign nations, about 116 practices unicameral legislation because it is more effective. Saving money is not the only issue. Okay. Proper coordination, representation is key. Working in unity is key. Look at the situation in Nigeria today. We don't even know which of this body are the one representing us. The Senate, the House of Rep.
When you say proper coordination, what do you particularly mean? What are you talking about?
If we have a unitary house, their debate, the bill they pass, the discussion will be guided by one common factor. But now, Senate is saying one thing, House of Rep is saying another thing.
And they have to harmonize.
And they have to harmonize. There must be proper coordination. A unicameral legislation make it effective. So it is more, saving money is part of it, But it's not the basic consideration.
Okay, so let's bring in Jev right now. So what difference really would it make for Nigeria if we practice or run a unicameral legislature based on the foregoing? Already talked about the population of Nigeria that is nowhere comparable with other African countries. Where do you stand with this? Okay, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much. We have borrowed our democracy, our system of democracy from America. And so the bicameral legislature is something we borrowed from America. And America took to this for some reasons. A few reasons why they decided to embark on bicameral legislature. One of them is that when the Constitutional Amendment Convention was going on, the states, 30 states then, 12 participated, and there were big states like Texas, like California, then there were small states like Wyoming and so on, and the small states were insisting on equal representation, while the big states were insisting on representation based on population. So as a great compromise, they decided to have both. That is representation based on population and representation based on equality of the states. That's why you have Senate, where each of the states has two senators. In America, we have 3 here. Why the House of Representatives has representation based on population. That's why in Nigeria, for instance, you have Kano and Lagos having 24 states. You have small states like Nasarawa and Bayelsa having five members, representatives. Now, considering the nature of our country, the nature of how many tribes we have, how religious we claim to be here, but more importantly, let me even take this. But more importantly, the idea of a bicameral legislature is that we don't want a situation where you have one body growing too powerful. The bicameral legislature acts as a check on itself. The Senate could easily sit and in one day take a decision. It may be in the best interest of the country, it may not be. But when you have 2 legislatures, maybe something that started in the Senate could be rejected in the House of Representatives and vice versa. So it acts as a check, sort of. So in my opinion, your contributor said money is not the only consideration. And I agree, because come to think of it, well, it may be more expensive, but without the legislature, you may not have the democracy. In fact, you definitely do not have democracy. And so when it comes to the legislature, what is the best way to have a legislature that will, serve the interests of the country? It is when you have a situation where the bicameral legislature tries to act as a check on each other. You don't rush to legislation. Though that may, in one way, look at as if it slows down the process, but looking at it from a positive angle, it's positive, because you don't sit as a court and decide to take a decision sometimes not in the best interest of the country. So I'm all for continue with the bicameral legislature. Of course, there may be excesses. Of course, there may be inadequacies, but we work on them and continue the way we are.
All right. What will be the greatest hurdle to, at this stage of our democracy, getting a unicameral legislature?
The greatest hurdle.
I mean, is it really possible, feasible at this time of our democracy? Can we handle it? Can it pass? What is the greatest hurdle?
First step is to amend the Constitution. Who are the people to amend the Constitution? The National Assembly.
The same legislature.
The National Assembly. Mr. Oke made a mention of checkmating each other. And he's talking about a house growing too powerful, that are difficult to control. What is the function of the legislature? To represent their people, to make law for the country, and to have oversight on the other arms of government. If they are doing this, in the real sense of it, there won't be any issue as to getting so big and powerful. But when their personal interest is more than what they are there to do, that is why we are having that kind of issue we are having today.
So the real issue here is not really the question of whether unicameral or bicameral legislature is what is ideal for Nigeria, but the perception of the character of the people in the legislature. And we're looking at the debate over whether Nigeria really should adopt a unicameral form of legislature or stick with the bicameral legislature that is actually operating right now.
And then he was saying that it's the same National Assembly we have today that will have to, yes. And I will get back to that.
Absolutely.
Akiwale
Ekunusi is a lawyer. He's our guest right here in the studio. And of course, Honorable Okejev is of the House Committee on Rules and Business. Thanks for remaining with us, gentlemen. Now, Okejev, let me come back to you. You said you stand with a bicameral legislature. That is, we should stick with what we have now in spite of the challenges. The resentment towards the Senate especially, or maybe the whole of the National Assembly, but specifically the Senate, because of the things that have been going on recently up until now. And then the issue of how much is being spent on one, senator every month, 24 million naira. Can Nigeria really afford this kind of bill on the legislature?
Well, the point of the matter is that even if you cut it down to a unicameral legislature, the argument will still be there. Sometimes I think it's because of military intervention, we've had several years, over 2 decades, nearly 2 decades in this country without a legislature. So people think, oh, even without them, this country can go on. And what they forget is that without a legislature, you won't have democracy. If there are excesses, I mean, we should be working on correcting them. We started with a parliamentary system of government in the First Republic. We changed to a presidential. Now, with presidential, we're thinking of other things. People will always, have suggestions as to how the system should be corrected. But I think we should try this system. We always look up to America when it comes to this system of government. How have they, it has not been smooth, even with America. If you look at the history of American democracy, it has not always been easy, but they have stuck with this system and perfected them. As to the kind of money that sometimes is bandied about, I'm not in a position to say, because people take a look at, they have 150 billion divided by the number of members of the House of Reps, and then come up with a system, not forgetting that you have a bureaucracy there, you have more than 16 equivalent of permanent secretaries and all of that, and you also have a capital project there. But that is not even the issue. The issue is that we have given ourselves a bicameral legislature. Is the practice of democracy in the country, especially in the legislative arm of government, ideal? If it's not ideal, how do we try to correct a system? Is it to do with...
Just hold your thoughts a while. Just hold your thoughts a while. We're going to get back to you on this issue of cost, because we're actually running away from it. It's quite, to maintain both houses is terribly expensive. We're running away from it, but that's one of the major causes. I'll get back to you on that. I was asking you, earlier on, we spoke and we said, okay, it's the same houses that we have today that will be responsible for passing the bill. Now, what I'm asking, is there any way that we can get around the House and get this done?
You see, people have been clamoring for a conference where the entity called Nigeria should be discussed. In the time of Goodluck Jonathan, he called it confab. There are suggestions, but none of them up to today has been carried out. Let's look at where we started from. All the constitution we've had in Nigeria, from the colonial era up to now, none of them have represented the interests of the people.
That seems to be where the major problem is. Really.
That's the major problem. The one we are practicing now was concocted by Sani Abacha, who had the intention of removing his khaki to become the president. So it was fashioned to suit its purpose and the purpose of certain elements in this country. Forget about the fact that we, the people of Nigeria.
So the question is, how can we
if there's
circumvent,
a possibility
of cutting off the National Assembly and getting this thing done? I mean, if it's achievable.
That's a tall one.
That's a tall one. That's why I don't know whether OKJF is still there, because I wanted to go back. Hello, OKJF. Yes.
I'm still here.
Yeah, good. I know you're a legislature, but aren't you really bothered at the cost of running both the Senate and the House of Reps? For example, we just read that the costliest in the world.
Yes, 150.
And we're nowhere near what Americans earn as a nation, and yet we're doing this. Are you not really bothered? I mean, if you take yourself out of being a rep and look at it dispassionately, are you not really concerned that the cost is eating up the nation?
Well, thank you. I attended a conference lately, and an expert who has nothing to do with the legislature, an intellectual from the university, who said he gave himself the task of studying this issue of the cost of running the National Assembly. Why it may be high, it is nowhere near the most expensive as has been put. He said he did a study, and that is nowhere what has been bandied about. I know in Nigeria we are used to trying to set records. Nigeria is the only place where this happened, or is the but that's what he said. Of course, we can cut down on the cost of running government, not just the legislature. Like I said, maybe because we are new on the scene, and maybe because the legislator is the nearest to the people of all arms of government. Until recently, people hardly criticized the judiciary, and not much attention is even given to the executive. But the legislature, if we are to buy a car, I mean, that becomes headline news. When a minister will go around with a series of cars, I'm not justifying that, but little is said about that. So attention is so much focused on that. Like I said, we have given ourselves the task of having a democracy patterned after the presidential system of government from America. We can work within this and try to see how we can cut down on the cost and to reflect the realities of our circumstances. But not to say that, because of this, let's resort to unicameral legislature. I'm sure that if we do that, tomorrow people will still talk about cost.
Okay,
so
all right.
It is how we can
about
go
that
with
really
what we have.
Because that's speculative.
That's fine, but let's even find out what Nigerians are saying about this one. We went out to sample opinions of Nigerians on the debate for unicameral legislature. Let's listen to them.
Opinion should be scrapped. I think we should also reach out to the Senegalese and find out how they are going about it. I mean, if they're doing well without a Senate, it means we can do it. I see no reason why we should be spending so much on a group of people who do not even care that we exist.
No, I don't think they should be scrapped. No, they shouldn't be scrapped.
Okay, why do you think so?
As it is, in democracy, Senate is the only distinguishing tools between democracy itself and other forms of government. If you look at the military era, for instance, we had the judiciary. The only thing that was not present was actually the legislature.
The Senate should be scrapped because there is no benefit the entire nation are deriving from them. One, we don't know the salary they earn. Two, they are not injecting anything to the life of our youths, because most of the youths, some pass through university, some have MBA, 5, some have PhD. But today, they are roaming about the street.
Senate should not be scrapped because of the kind of system of government we practice in this country. We practice the democratic type, and we know that being a republic, you have to have your Senate, your House of Representatives, and executives. So I don't think they should be scrapped.
One Senate or the other, from one Senate to the other and all that, and we've known that a lot of these issues are like recurrent issues. Each Senate that comes up, one thing or the other makes it, you know, how do I use the word now? Maybe untrustworthy, okay? Each of them, they play one game or the other, and at the end of the day, it looks as if it's a set of unserious people.
No, because they have their role to play. At least, you know, in a government, we have 3 tiers of government. We have executive, we have judiciary, and legislative. So they have their role to play. So I don't see that for scrapping it is important, as far as I'm concerned.
All right,
divergent going on views. There, yes, and that's what makes
democracy
people and democracy are definitely going to have voices for
you know
and
what?
against.
Since 2014, when the Confab Committee actually recommended this unicameral legislature as the way to go for Nigeria, and then added with the fact that many people say, look, this legislature, they only spend time investigating than actually, you know, making laws.
Making
they
laws.
just investigate MDAs and, you know, and all the rest of them, and ministers included. All right, our guest right here in the studio is Akinwale Ekunusi. He's a lawyer, and we've been talking with him on this. And we have right there in our Abuja studio, Honorable Jev, his House Committee on Business and, well, he's in the legislature, all right, and he's part of the legislature. Now, coming back to the point of the laws the National Assembly makes and their take-home pay since 1999 and everything that has gone on so far, has the legislature actually lived up to expectation in your view as a lawmaker? Okay, Jeff.
Oh, definitely. There are lows and there are highs, but definitely, like I say, take out the legislature and see whether you have a democracy. People will be crying about trampling on their rights. People will be crying about a whole lot of other things. We need to, every day you find scores of people going to the legislature to air their views on their grievances and all of that. And of course, our role is cut out for us in the Constitution. The moment we go outside of those roles, we will be breaching the Constitution. So let's look at what we have done vis-a-vis what the Constitution says we should do. I think, like I pointed out, there have been low points, but largely we have lived up to what the Constitution says we should do.
I can say. I was just thinking. In United States of America, for example, what we copied, Nebraska is one of the states that has unicameral. Is it possible that maybe how we can get around this is having what you call a really federal system? Because that's the only reason. And then of course in India you have Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, Jammu, you know. Also in India having unicameral. Could that be a way out of this imbroglio?
If the people of Nigeria want it, and the government is sincere about it, they should call for a referendum. When UK wanted to opt out of Europe, they called for a referendum. There was vote. Now they are out. If Nigeria want unicameral, and they are clamoring for it, and the government or the say that this thing is eating deep into the economy of this country, call for a referendum. Let people make their mind known about it. At least the will of the people should supersede the will of a sect of people. We are Nigerian. We are looking for a way of making things better for this country.